legal systems, financial institutions, and social structures that influenced Chinese society for generations. Their impact on trade, politics, and culture was profound and lasting. The legacy of Chinese piracy can still be seen today in the maritime traditions of southern China. Many fishing communities trace their origins back to pirate families. Business practices and social customs that developed in pirate communities influenced the development of Hong Kong and other trading centers. Understanding this history changes how we think about piracy, maritime law, and the development of modern China. It shows us that the line between criminal and legitimate was often blurred, and that some of history's most successful organizations operated outside traditional legal frameworks. ChingShih's story reminds us that power and influence aren't always inherited or granted by established authorities. Sometimes they're seized by individuals with the vision and determination to create something entirely new. She didn't just break the rules, she rewrote them completely, and in doing so, she changed the course of Chinese history. But there's still more to this incredible story that most people never hear about. The day-to-day reality of life in these pirate communities was unlike anything that existed anywhere else in the world. These floating cities had their own unique cultures, their own ways of handling everything, from romance and marriage to crime and punishment. The social dynamics within these pirate confederations were absolutely fascinating and completely different from what we see in Western pirate stories. When a young person joined a pirate crew, they weren't just signing up for a life of crime. They were entering a complex society with its own rules, traditions, and opportunities for advancement. Marriage within pirate communities followed strict protocols that would surprise most people. Couples couldn't just decide to get married on their own. They needed approval from their captain and sometimes from the Confederation leadership. Wedding ceremonies were elaborate affairs that involved the entire crew, and the union created new alliances and obligations that affected the whole organization. Divorce was also possible, but it required formal proceedings where both parties presented their cases to senior members of the crew. Property had to be divided according to specific rules, and custody of children was determined based on what was best for the community as a whole. These weren't savage criminals making arbitrary decisions. They were following legal procedures that had been refined over generations. The role of children in these communities was particularly unique. Kids weren't just passengers or burdens. They were the future of the organization. From a very young age, they were taught the skills they'd need to survive and thrive in pirate society. Boys learned seamanship, combat, and navigation, while girls learned administration, negotiation, and the complex social skills needed to manage relationships between different crews and factions. But here's what's really interesting. Education wasn't segregated by gender the way it was on land. Girls could learn combat skills if they showed aptitude, and boys could study administration and diplomacy. The pirates needed capable people in every role, and they couldn't afford to waste talent based on traditional gender expectations. Punishment for crimes within pirate communities was swift but fair. Minor infractions like gambling disputes or arguments over food were handled by crew leaders. More serious crimes like theft from fellow pirates or cowardice in battle were judged by councils of senior members. The worst offences, betraying the Confederation or harming fellow pirates without cause, were punishable by death or abandonment. What made their justice system remarkable was its consistency. Unlike the arbitrary punishment that was common in imperial China, pirate justice followed established procedures. Accused individuals could present witnesses, argue their case, and even appeal decisions to higher authorities. This wasn't mob rule, it was organized law enforcement. The economic system within these floating communities was incredibly sophisticated. Every member of a crew received shares based on their rank and contribution. New recruits got the smallest portions, while experienced fighters and specialists received larger amounts. Captains and officers took the biggest shares. but they also had the greatest responsibilities and risks. But the pirates didn't just divide up stolen goods, they invested in their future. Successful crews would use their profits to buy better weapons, improve their ships, and recruit new members. They maintained repair facilities, purchased supplies in advance, and even set aside funds for the families of members who were killed or injured. Trade relationships with legitimate merchants were complex and often mutually beneficial. Pirates provided security services, market information, and access to goods that were difficult to obtain through official channels. Merchants gained protection from other criminals and often paid lower total costs than they would have faced dealing with corrupt government officials. These business relationships weren't based on simple extortion. Pirates had to maintain their reputation for reliability and fairness, or merchants would find other ways to transport their goods. The most successful pirate organizations were those that provided genuine value to their clients, not just protection from themselves. The intelligence gathering capabilities of these confederations were absolutely extraordinary. They maintained networks of informants throughout southern China that rivaled anything the imperial government possessed. Tavern keepers, dock workers, government clerks, and merchant sailors all provided information in exchange for payment or protection. This intelligence wasn't just used for planning raids. Pirates tracked weather patterns, monitored political developments, followed trade routes, and even kept tabs on the personal lives of important officials. They knew which magistrates could be bribed, which naval commanders were competent, and which merchants were worth targeting. Communication between different pirate vessels and bases relied on an elaborate system of signals, codes, and messengers. Ships could communicate across vast distances using flags, lights, and smoke signals that conveyed complex information about threats, opportunities, and strategic plans. Trusted messengers carried detailed written instructions between commanders, often using coded language that would be meaningless to outsiders. The medical knowledge within pirate communities was remarkably advanced. Ship doctors had to deal with everything from combat wounds to tropical diseases to the psychological stress of life at sea. They developed treatments and surgical techniques that were often superior to what was available in major cities. These medical practitioners also served as pharmacists, dentists, and sometimes even veterinarians for the animals that lived aboard the ships. They maintained detailed records of treatments and outcomes, constantly improving their methods based on experience and observation. Mental health was also taken seriously within pirate communities. Life at sea was stressful and dangerous, and crews that couldn't maintain morale and cohesion were doomed to failure. Experienced captains knew how to recognize signs of psychological breakdown and had strategies for dealing with everything from homesickness to combat trauma. Entertainment and recreation played crucial roles in maintaining crew morale. Pirates organized gambling games, storytelling competitions, music performances, and athletic contests. These activities weren't just diversions. They were essential for building bonds between crew members and maintaining the social fabric of the community. Religious and spiritual practices varied widely between different crews and regions. Some pirates maintained traditional Chinese religious observances, while others adopted beliefs from the many cultures they encountered in their travels. Most vessels had some form of shrine or sacred space where crew members could pray, meditate, or seek guidance from ancestors or deities. The role of women in these communities extended far beyond what most people imagine. Female pirates weren't just exceptions or curiosities, they were integral parts of the organization. Some commanded their own vessels, others served as administrators or diplomats, and many ran the complex logistics operations that kept the confederations functioning. Women also served as cultural bridges between different groups within the pirate community. They often spoke multiple languages, understood various customs, and could negotiate with people from different backgrounds. This made them invaluable for the diplomatic and commercial activities that were essential to pirate success. The romantic relationships that developed within pirate communities were governed by complex social rules and expectations. Courtship rituals, marriage ceremonies, and family structures all reflected the unique challenges and opportunities of life at sea. Couples had to navigate not just personal compatibility, but also the political and economic implications of their union. Pregnancy and childbirth